I'm broadcasting from an underground bunker in a nondescript location to share with you some industry secrets that barbers do not want you to know. You call me Little Flip. I flip out every fade. Clippers. I only use one trimmer. Flick every fade every time. Think about this. Do you think good barbers are just flicking their wrist and getting lucky every time they do a good haircut?
Think again. That's as dumb as texting and driving. So let's put a spotlight on the situation. In order to fade properly, you are going to have to be able to hit every single length on this chart. So if you notice in this chart at the very bottom, we have skin to trimmer. This means that your trimmer has to be able to cut as close to skin as possible. Now to get the skin, we're gonna use the electric shaver. So we need to make a small jump in between the skin and the electric shaver, which is why we got to talk about zero gapping. We'll talk about that in a second. We're also going to be talking about, assuming you can afford it, what the absolute best setup is to give you the absolute best results. And I'm not necessarily talking about brands. You guys know that I'm a huge fan of Gamma. And if you guys choose to use Gamma, you can use my code. You can save 10%, code Eddie. However, we're gonna talk about what the best possible setup between your clippers and your trimmers could be so that you can consistently knock out any fade or any haircut confidently that walks into your barbershop. I ran a poll, what's more important? Learning how to fade, learning how to build clients, or impressing other barbers? And surprisingly, 2% of people did vote for impressing other barbers. We'll get into the poll later. I want to also announce to you guys that I am now doing live one-on-one training. It's via Zoom. You guys can check out the link in the description. It's my booked in link. When you see it, scroll all the way to the bottom and you're going to see that as a service. It is a one-on-one training service. I will be using video tools to teach you. I will also be in the shop while I do this. I have all my tools and everything on my station so that you can learn, whether you want to learn about business, whether you want to learn about clientele building, whether you want to learn about fading, it doesn't make a difference. Just scroll on down and book that appointment. So with that being said, let's get to it. So after we've handled our phase one portion of the blend, one of the things you want to make sure that you do is when you're coming from skin to the trimmer, you're flicking out a little bit. You kind of want to stop before you reach the top of this line because you don't want to make this an even harsher line than it is. You want to give yourself space to be able to create the blend. So as long as you've handled phase one properly, you've skinned them down, you might have to go back with your trimmer slightly in this step to kind of make sure that that's all uniform. But if it is, you're not going to have a trouble going into the next step. Next step, we're going to put the clipper in the open position and we are going to cut our guideline. We're going to do this around the whole head. Same width all the way around. Now, the width of this guideline that you set, that's going to be how compressed your blend is. So if you're trying to get one of them low fades where it gets from skin to real tight into like a really long hair quick, you're going to want to make all these guidelines a little bit skinnier. All right, let's stop for just a second. This is the area that you're going to struggle in if you don't have your stuff zero gap and set up properly. So perfect timing on the zero gap. We have the newest blade for the Evo and Hitter, and they put a lot of work into this. So this is just a top blade, and we're going to install this on a Hitter real quick. So we're going to start by just unscrewing these two bolts. Okay, we're gonna need our cutting blade. Now, in order to zero gap this, you're actually going to loosen these two bolts here. One and the other. I just loosen them up a tiny bit. So now we're gonna take our cutting blade and we are going to set it on our stationary blade. Now, the amount of space there is between the two, that's what we're talking about when we say zero gap. I'm just going to slide this up. I want it almost flush with it, but perfectly straight. Now it's a little hard to see on the camera because both these blades are black, but that looks pretty damn good. So now I can lock up these two bottom bolts and we'll get this thing back on the trimmer. I don't feel any discomfort. Test it this way. This is kind of an extreme case because I'm allowing for the moving blade to actually touch and contact my skin. I want to see how that feels. This doesn't feel too sharp. It's annihilating the hair. And that's how you get your trimmer set. Now clippers are even easier. Most clippers, you're not even gonna have to take apart. So all you're gonna do with this clipper is you're just going to loosen this blade and this blade. Bam, bam, just a little bit. You'll be able to move this. We're gonna align it straight. Now sometimes this can move on you, so you gotta be careful. But once you got it pretty straight, I like to grip it. And I actually like to twist it a little bit to the left, so this way. Because when I tighten the bolt down, it's gonna twist this blade a little bit. So now, bam, bam. And that is a pretty dang perfect set. You can see how it's just about flush with the top, but it's not going over. Let's test it on the arm, and that's a good set. So once we've got our open taper set, we're actually going to go ahead, we're gonna skip this half guard, and we're gonna go right up to the 1 open. So that means this step's gonna be a little bit wider. We're gonna put our number 1 on in the open position, and we're gonna make our kind of final guideline, if you will. So what you're going to notice now, you got all your guidelines in. We're gonna begin closing this 1 guard. I like to do it like 1 or 2 clicks at a time, and I like to stay just underneath where I was. Again, closing it another couple clicks. We got it about halfway closed, and I'm gonna close it all the way. And you're going to notice that between the open taper line and the 1, all the way, all this line will be blended out. Now we can circle back and we can hit this open taper line that we left, all right? You're gonna notice that this line got a lot fainter, and you're gonna be able to start working it down. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna click this 2 clicks, and I'm going to go up just underneath where I was. Now, what I was talking about with the flicking, little flick, the guy that you've seen in the beginning that had to hide his identity, a lot of barbers think, and I think a lot of clients and a lot of people think that we're just good at flipping our wrist, and that's how we're getting this done. That's not true at all. In fact, holding this flat on the head, making sure you know where flat is, because some guards are curved. This number 1 guard is a perfect example. So if I put this number 1 guard on, and I actually have this on, right? I hold this flat. Well, this is not flat. This is flat. So in order for you to actually be able to cut down to what the number 1 guard is supposed to cut, you actually have to hold it flush on the scalp to do so. And hair can be pretty uncooperative sometimes. You might do all these steps perfect. You might know all your steps in order, but sometimes the hair is just laying down. It won't get cut. Sometimes they slept on it funny. Sometimes things just don't work out the way they should because there's a lot of concave in the head. But this is your basic way to get this fade done. So once we've began closing this down until we're entirely closed, this bottom line is going to be wiped up. We're going to pretty much be done with anything in this number 1 area, but we did skip our half guard. So we're going to come back, and there's going to be just a very faint line. We're going to snap our half guard on, and we are going to put that about halfway open, and we're just going to run in there holding it flat. Now, what you're going to have to do at this point in the blend, you've done everything right. But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to start working on angles. That doesn't mean leaving the head necessarily. So working it back and forth on angles, I call this a crisscross pattern. If you use this crisscross pattern, no matter what direction the grain's growing in, no matter what direction the hair's laying in, you're going to be able to cut it down to the desired length. Once you're entirely done with this step, remember we finished off on 1 open. We're going to put the 1 1/2 on, and no one has a better 1 1/2 than the Gamma Dubs. We're going to open that up, and we're going to probably be able to blend this into the rest of the hair. And from then on, we're going to use clipper over comb. If you need to learn clipper over comb or shear over comb, I got the 2 great videos on it. You guys can check it out. But basically, all blends boil down to a series of these steps. You can do these in different orders. You can do this in different ways. On to the 2 most important things that you're going to need in your arsenal. One is going to be your fade blade, which is set tight, set close, 0 gap, like we talked about on the board. Now that for me is the Rebel. Now the other one that you're going to want is you're going to want to have a second clipper that has a taper blade on it. Now this taper blade is going to cut much softer. It's going to be a lot more forgiving. You're going to be able to do a lot more with this blade and get away with it mistake-wise than you would with the other blade. So that's why I love having a taper blade on my station. And when it's time to do the detail at the end of the haircut, removing dark spots, chasing after faint lines, this is the tool of choice. This doesn't have to be set super close. I like it set close, but not close enough that it irritates the clients. Whereas my fade clipper might be set a little close to the point where it might irritate the client's skin, but you just have to be careful working with it and know what you're doing. Part 2 of the genius setup here is going to be having 2 trimmers. Now I have my Evo, and the Evo has Gamma's all new blade on it. It cuts phenomenally, but I have it set back a little bit. This is perfect for using it on kids, perfect for cleaning up around the ear, perfect for debulking in certain situations where the detachable clipper is not gonna get. So that's why you wanna have one that's set back, and then you wanna have one that's hitting like freaking samurai sword, man. Like this one's really set close. it could be pretty dangerous to work with if you didn't know that. And this is gonna be my hitter, my killer. This is what I'm putting in my designs with. This is what I'm putting in my front lines with. And that's pretty much it. I don't really touch this to people's necks, but if I do, I can. I just have to exercise a good deal of caution. And I like actually having two separately, completely different machines so that I can identify them. The nice thing about Gamma is you can put a different case on it, but as long as you have two and you can differentiate from them, I'll know what tool to pick up when I need each tool. And I'm gonna be able to tackle anything that walks in the door with confidence as long as I have things set up properly. All right, you guys, that question was a little dicey. What's more important to you? Learning how to fade, learning how to build your clientele, or impressing other barbers? Which surprisingly, 2% of people did vote for impressing other barbers. Now, learning how to fade, people thought it was more important than building clientele. That's kind of the whole purpose. It's chicken or the egg, you know? That's what this question was, kind of. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Most people are not gonna remember how you made them look. However, they will always remember how you made them feel. And if you're making them feel good, you should be in the shop, building relationships, making people feel good, because that's gonna make them wanna come to you. That's gonna tell others about you, and they're gonna wanna send their friends to you. So that's how you're gonna wind up building your clientele. And absolutely, your skills will improve over time. However, I've seen barbers with some very poor skills have huge clienteles, and I've seen it the other way around. So with that being said, man, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you got something out of this. And I hope that you guys follow me over to this next video, which we will be releasing next Monday on this whole station setup, perfect for filming, perfect for everything. And it's so functional, man. So I can't wait to share it to you. It's been a bit of a journey to get here. And yeah, man, I'm excited. So with that being said, man, this is the YouTube Barber Academy. I'm Mr. Eddie Barber, and I'm out of here. Peace. I didn't actually go nowhere. I really thought that was gonna make me disappear. It didn't. Anyway, so that you could succeed right through any type of haircut, so you could properly attack any type of haircut and be met with success. Know that you're gonna get a good result with consistency and all that jazz. so that you can consistently knock out any fade or any haircut confidently that walks into your barbershop.